This actually happened in Tokyo. Imagine the busiest city in the world suddenly going silent. No footsteps, no voices, no movement, just nothing. Not because of a disaster, but because people chose to stop. Over 200 years ago, Edo, modern-day Tokyo, was one of the largest cities on Earth, filled with constant noise, movement, and life that never seemed to pause. But as the year came to an end, everything began to change. Shops closed. Lanterns dimmed. People returned home. The rhythm of the city slowed, as if it was preparing for something bigger than just a holiday. Because in Edo, New Year wasn't just a celebration, it was a reset. And that reset was taken seriously by everyone. Before the new year could begin, everything unfinished had to be resolved. In Edo's daily life, many people relied on a system of trust known as tabaki, where goods were purchased now and paid later. But as the year came to an end, those debts could not remain. Debt collectors known as kaketori walked the streets, visiting homes one by one, knocking on doors and calling out names. Not with aggression, but with quiet certainty. Inside each home, families gathered their coins, carefully counting, sometimes struggling, but always doing what they could to repay what they owed. Because entering a new year with unpaid debts was not acceptable, it meant carrying the weight of the past into the future. And this process wasn't only about money. It extended to relationships as well. Apologies were made. Unspoken tensions were released. Old conflicts were quietly settled. Because people believed that anything unresolved, financial or emotional, should not be carried forward. It had to be cleared. Only then could the new year truly begin. As these final responsibilities were completed across the city, Edo grew quieter. Streets emptied. Shops closed completely. And then came a unique and powerful tradition that defined the transition into the new year. In Edo, the first day of the year was not a day of activity. It was a day of rest. People did not rush outside. Businesses remained closed. Work was avoided entirely. Instead, families stayed inside their homes, spending time together in a calm and intentional atmosphere. Food was prepared in advance so that cooking could be avoided. Even ordinary tasks were set aside. The idea was simple: do nothing on the first day. Let the new year begin without effort, without pressure, without noise. This silence wasn't seen as empty, it was seen as meaningful. A moment to reflect, to reset, and to begin the year with clarity. And this quiet continued beyond the first day. While modern life might resume immediately after New Year's Day, in Edo, the city remained in a slower rhythm for several days. Shops stayed closed. Public activity remained limited. People continued to rest, visit family, and ease back into daily life. In many cases, this quiet period extended into what we now recognize as the traditional New Year holiday, lasting until around the 15th of the month. It wasn't a sudden return to normal, it was a gradual reawakening of the city. During this time, social visits took place, greetings were exchanged, and people reconnected with one another in a more relaxed and respectful way. Life didn't rush back, it unfolded. And this entire period stood in contrast to the rest of the year, when Edo was known for its constant motion and energy. But perhaps that's what made it so powerful. The contrast. The pause. The intentional silence before movement began again. At midnight, temple bells rang across the city 108 times, each ring symbolizing the cleansing of human desires and the release of the burdens of the past year. The sound echoed through the cold air, gradually fading into stillness. And then, silence. Imagine standing there in a city of over 1 million people and hearing nothing. No movement. No voices. Just quiet. For a brief moment, the busiest city in the world stopped completely. And in that silence, there was something rare. Not emptiness, but peace. Not absence, but meaning. A shared understanding that stopping was part of moving forward. Then, as the days passed, the city slowly came back to life. By the second day, activity began to return. Shops gradually reopened. People started to step outside again. Movement resumed, but at a calmer pace than before. And over the following days, especially as the traditional holiday period continued toward the 15th, the city transitioned back into its normal rhythm, not abruptly, but naturally. This gradual return allowed people to carry the sense of renewal with them into the year ahead. Today, Tokyo is one of the busiest cities in the world, filled with constant motion, bright lights, and endless activity. It rarely stops. But hidden in its history is a tradition that once brought the entire city to a complete pause. A moment where people chose silence over noise. Stillness over activity. Reset over continuation. And maybe, in a world that never seems to slow down, that idea still matters. Because sometimes, the most powerful way to begin, is to stop. So here's a question. What would happen if your city, your life, or your world took a pause like this, even for a moment? If this story made you pause for a moment, then maybe it already did what it was meant to do. Take a second, just breathe, and think about it. And if you enjoy stories like this, quiet moments hidden inside history, consider subscribing and following along. Because sometimes, the most powerful stories are the ones that remind us to stop.